Great. Hi everybody. I'll just introduce myself quickly. My
Please.
name's Michelle Sargent. I am an associate marriage and family therapist about to sit for my exam in 3 days. Um, and I work in community mental health in intensive outpatient services. So for those of you who are either in different states or different countries, I work in what's called full service partnership, which is field-based intensive mental health for kids, usually about 5 to 15. Sometimes we go down to 4 years old, sometimes above 15. And we work out in the field, in the home, in the community, at kids' schools. And literally, the motto of full service partnership is whatever it takes. Um, so it's a we work in teams, and it's very kind of boots on the ground, a lot of crisis and very intensive mental health issues with both the kids and their families. And I specifically work in the areas of South Central Los Angeles all the way out to East Los Angeles. Um, and I, uh, yeah, and I work at an organization called Wellnest, in case anybody's interested. So I'm really excited to meet and talk with you guys today. I'm also a little nervous, so I'm throwing that out there to be in the present, express my experience. So I wanted to just begin with what the families and the communities that I serve are going through in COVID-19. So the kids that we work with are already experiencing a lot of oppressive influences already before COVID began. And now with COVID, these stressors are spiking through the roof. So beginning with just mental health issues, the kids that we serve are usually challenged in numerous areas. They'll have a mental health issue. A lot of them also have learning disabilities, ADHD. A lot of them are on the spectrum. And the families in which they live also have a lot of mental health issues. So the parents or the caregivers are usually, I would say at least 50% of the time, also diagnosed with a pretty severe mental health issue, or that they have mental health issues that are undiagnosed. So these have spiked majorly since COVID-19. The crises have uh, gone up a lot. Um, a lot of the issues are that the caregivers, with the excess stress, their mental health is getting a lot worse, and they're decompensating in a lot of ways. Um, and the kids are they don't know how to handle the stressors that are the onslaught of multiple stressors. Um, so I'm sure some of you guys have also seen this in different communities as well, but I'm just going to be speaking from the communities that I serve. Um, so here are some of the biggest issues. Um, Obviously, a lot of the kids we work with, their suicide or their depression, whatever their existing mental health issue is getting a lot worse. So there's a lot more suicidal ideation, a lot more threatening or actually trying to harm others. The domestic violence within the home is definitely increasing, um, and also kind of expanding and extending. So if it's extended families, maybe where there was a little bit of domestic violence between maybe the caregivers, that's maybe now expanding, and now grandpa and grandpa are actually going toe to toe, and multiple adults are getting more aggressive with each other, and the kids are witnessing this. Um, Also, increased neglect as the parents become overstressed. I have one mom who her depression is so bad she just locks herself in the room all day, and the kids are just kind of left to do whatever they want. Um, and then another big issue in the communities that I serve is the increased sexual exploitation of youth. So youth who did have a little bit of containment when we were able to go out in the field now are just kind of left literally out in the wind, and it's hard for DCFS, for law enforcement, for us to reach them. And obviously, exploitation is skyrocketing because it's a great time for people who want to exploit other people to take advantage of that. Another issue is that the health system has really dropped the ball with these communities. So for example, when we do have crises and we have to admit a kid for a 55, 85, most of the time, I would say 80% of the time, they're getting returned to the home within 24 hours, even though they don't really, they should be hospitalized. So essentially these kids are in major crisis and they're being turned back into homes that are unprepared to handle either the suicidal ideation or the threat of harm to members of the family, which is putting an increased burden on the family to try and keep it together and try and keep themselves safe, and also putting an increased burden on us as the mental health providers to try and figure out how to support these families. Other issues are that families that have a lot of underlying health conditions, those health conditions are not being treated properly and appropriately. They're not admitted to the hospital when their conditions get worse. And those that have gone into emergency rooms or hospitals have also been kicked to the curb pretty fast with very little, if any, support. So I had one mom who had a miscarriage, and they just sent her home without even giving her her antibiotics or like diapers to wear for her bleeding. Not to be, I don't want to share too much of the details to bum everybody out, but these are the kinds of things that my families are facing, and there are families who have already experienced extensive trauma, and so these communities are getting re-traumatized, I guess is what I'm saying in short. Another issue is educational neglect. I think we've probably seen this across the board, but in the communities I serve, it's just kind of ridiculous. Special ed, which I would say 75% of my kids are in, has completely dropped. Like special ed, there's been no consideration for it during Zoom. The parents haven't been, or the caregivers haven't been briefed at all on what any kind of special dispensation the kids have been receiving in class. And so they have no idea what's going on when their kids are completely losing it in the house during their Zoom sessions, because they don't have any tools, other than maybe what we've been trying to share with them. So the school system has really dropped the ball when it comes to special ed and individual education plans. Some students who I have at non-public schools, which for those again who are from out of the country, a non-public school is not a private school. It's a LAUSD school that is especially designed for special ed and kids with severe emotional disturbance or educational difficulties. So these schools have not provided computers like the rest of LAUSD has. So these kids are essentially with no technology, very little internet connection, and a lot of them don't even have phones that work very well. And so they just didn't go to school for the last 3 months. So they're going to be way behind. It's like a whole generation that's going to get affected by this. And then the final thing is financial chaos. These families that I work with have been thrown into complete chaos, whether it's by losing jobs that they didn't that were getting them by, or a lot of the families who were living on such a limited income already. When they got the stimulus checks, they had no idea what to do with them. It was like, I don't know if you've ever been starving for like a while, but if someone like hands you some food, you usually, I don't know about you, but I'm like, arr, 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 arr. So it's like they didn't know. They ended up spending it unwisely, or they ended up kind of just buying a ton of food, and the food went bad, or just, it was a really, it was like a helpful thing to do, but a lot of the families I worked with just found it created more chaos in the house, which was unfortunate. And then of course, racial upheaval. So with all of the riots and I shouldn't say riots, but the protests, the looting, the violence that is just kind of been bubbling up. The kids especially are really, really affected by it. The parents don't know really how to talk to them about it. And it's happening right in their neighborhoods, with their families, their communities. So it's been really difficult. It's like no one's really talking about it, but it's on the back burner, and it shows up in almost all of my sessions with all of my kids. So that's kind of like the playing field in which we're working in intensive services. And then with COVID, what did we do? What do we do when we go from 95% field-based mental health to 95% telehealth. Um, so it's been a really difficult shift for a field-based intensive community. This is I don't know if anybody else out there in this group works in community mental health, but there's definitely like a little bit of a, we'll do anything, we'll do whatever it takes. And so moving from that, which is a little bit of a martyrdom attitude, which, I will totally own. It's one of the reasons I probably got into community mental health. So switching from that has been a shift. It's kind of like trying to move an oil tanker really quickly to avert, hitting another oil tanker or something. So it's messy, it's slow, it's arduous, and it hasn't been easy. So in community mental health already, it's kind of an arena that has porous boundaries with our clients just because of the nature of the work. We're right in the soup with these families and their lives and their homes. And so moving again to 95% telehealth has been difficult, and it's kind of called for a really profound shift in both our work culture and the providers that I work with, our personal perspectives on how to actually make contact and reach these kids and their families and make change. And also, it's been difficult to consider because many of the providers I work with, the case managers, the parent partners, and advocates, are also in these communities, and they don't make a lot of money, and they also don't have great internet or a lot of devices to work with. So they've, been limited in how they can reach their clients through telehealth, forcing a lot of the case managers and parent partners to do a little bit more field work, which again, I think points out that disparity, which is not part of my presentation, but is definitely part of, I think, this mix. So I'll just briefly go through how FSP has responded to this, because we never stopped doing a hybrid model. We have always, because of the requirements of our job in the Department of Mental Health, we've always been doing a hybrid model since the beginning. So this is how we've managed it, at least at a programmatic level. They've allowed telehealth for all non-emergent issues, including assessments, and unless there's a crisis, we can do telehealth if the clients agree. So the clients have to be in agreement. If it's crisis, we have gotten pretty crafty with crisis. So we try to do most of it by phone, if crisis management. And then if we do have to call a 5150 or a 5585, which essentially is a hospitalization for those of you who are not from the US, we essentially drive up to the house and stay outside of the house in the car and do all the paperwork and then hand it to PMRT when they arrive, so that there's as little contact as possible. And we also allow families to come into the office. So if a family does demand, insist upon seeing us face to face, we will invite them to come to the office where it's a more sterile environment, and wear masks and engage in therapy that way. So with field-based, it doesn't really happen much. These families are pretty under-resourced, so it's hard for them to get to the office, but at least it's an option, and it's a way that we can cover ourselves as far as the Department of Mental Health. And then, of course, if the family agrees to us coming to the house and we agree to it, we can go to the house as well and do face-to-face if we feel it's necessary. So just a couple quick ways of how I've responded personally as an intensive practitioner. So as I said, FSP is just porous boundaries from the get-go. So in a way, I found that this crisis has offered me an opportunity to both learn new boundary making skills for myself and also model boundaries with my clients and their caregivers, while also really reducing the barriers to collaborating with them. So usually it's pretty hard to get in touch with caregivers. They're so under-resourced and stressed out. They kind of just want to hand us their kids and see them at school, and but in a way, COVID has offered an opportunity for me to get to know the parents and caregivers in a much deeper way and partner with them in a way that I probably never would have gotten to do if COVID-19 hadn't presented itself. So I feel for myself, I'm one of the practitioners who feel pretty strongly about keeping my body safe. And also I feel like if I don't get sick, I'm better able to serve my clients. So what I've been doing is I make myself really available to caregivers during the week. I have invited as many caregivers as want to engage in what I've been calling like theracollaterals. So essentially I'm doing like a little bit of therapy with the caregivers while working out, how can I help them increase their self-care and cool themselves down so that they're better able to be with their kids. It's probably what we've all been doing. But for me, this is like a huge opportunity because the caregivers that I work with, I would say at least 80% of them are really hard to connect with. So I've been having a much deeper engagement with them. I've also been inviting them to share their own expertise with me, inviting them to get creative. And I've also been inviting them to take videos of their kids, especially the younger ones, and just send, if I can't engage the kids through video because of their behaviors or symptoms, can mom send me a video of it? And then I can do a collateral and do some planning on how I can help the caregivers deal with the kids. So it's a little bit like maybe, I think there's like a child therapy model that does that. So it's a little bit kind of a cowboy version of that. I've also obviously been increasing a lot of the case management, which I think everyone else has been doing. And then myself and as well as my teams, because the families I work with don't have a lot of toys, a lot of them don't have art materials to do art therapy. So we've been making like therapy care packages and doing drop-offs at the house. So like no hand delivery of paper, pens, crayons, just like super cheap stuff that we're getting at the dollar store and dropping them off at the house so that they can engage in therapy with some kind of tools. And then, like I said, I've been doing my high-risk clients. I have been seeing them at home, trying to keep 6 feet apart and, inviting them to wear masks and wearing masks myself. And then another thing I've been doing is increasing my team with DCFS and law enforcement. So if I can't get eyes in there, DCFS can for sure get eyes in there. They can't say no to DCFS, whereas they can say no to me, as well as probation officers and law enforcement. So there's a lot more communication while keeping confidentiality. So we're teaming a lot more deeply with those organizations, as well as helping the families advocate for themselves with these agencies. So DCFS has a lot of money at their disposal. So I've been doing a lot of advocacy work with my caregivers to, advocate with DCFS to get a computer for their kid, or coping skills or art materials. So that moves us to how I've been working clinically, at least myself. So like I said, I'm in community mental health. It's pretty cognitive, behavioral based. I'm a little bit of an odd bird there as a Gestalt depth therapist. However, I've been finding that I've been really leaning heavily on the Gestalt concept of the I-thou connection and how we're making contact in the here and now. Because
Michelle, hold on one second.
Yeah.
Can everyone mute themselves except Michelle, just so that we don't get the background noise?
Sure. You also, that might be my background noise.
What's yours? Okay.
Well, it could be.
Okay.
If you're hearing a truck going beep, 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 that would be me.
Anyway, I'm sorry. I didn't want it to distract because this is so important what we're learning from you.
Thank you. And also I want to identify, I've been, I'm blowing through a lot of this. So, just if you have any questions, definitely like keep them in mind, save them to the end. I'm mindful of time, so I might be talking really fast. In any case, so yeah, I mean, I find that in this time, I've really been relying really heavily on the Gestalt concepts of that contact in the here and now and the relationship. Because again, it's this very rare time where we're kind of all in the same soup together. And we're all experiencing that same sense of disconnection. And so in a way, I've been um, kind of just steeping in that with my clients, and using that as part of what's in the field. Like now we have a third party in the field, and that's this computer connection that sometimes is our friend and sometimes doesn't communicate well and sometimes has behaviors. Um, so that's something I think that's always been part of my work. But as I said, I work with DMH, so there's a lot of behavioral stuff I have to sort of hold the tensions with. And in this time, I've been at least, yeah, essentially trying to partner as well with the parents and the caregivers to just let a little bit of that go, and just for now, can we figure out how to be okay together in the way that we are connecting. Um, so some of the interventions I've been using to help facilitate that, I think along with everybody else in this phone call, um, I have been doing a ton of different ways to do phone sessions. A lot of my clients don't have computers, and they have phones that are questionable or old. They have very poor internet connections. So a lot of my video sessions become phone sessions, even with younger kids. So I've been doing a lot of phone sessions where we do art or writing, and they'll just text me the pictures or the pieces of work that they're making, so that I can see them, and then we'll do the projective work that way. Um, if they do have school computers from LAUSD, we've co-opted them for the sessions. Um, I've used a lot of the Oaklander training materials, thankfully, that Karen has provided, the sand tray and the projective things. So even if the computer connection maybe isn't working, I'll send them the link and let them just do the sand tray and describe it to me, if they can, if they have enough connectivity even to do it. Um, I will, let's see, I'm trying to think. Again, I've dropped a lot of therapy supplies off from the dollar store. Um, if they don't have anything, for example, um, if they don't have any toys, but they can see me through video, I'll play with my toys and I'll have them act things out. So like we will do puppet wars, and I'll just be them. I'll play both parts, or they'll tell me what each puppet's going to say, and I get directed a lot from them. Um, and if they don't have art supplies, for example, I had one client who she didn't have any art supplies, no paper, no pens, barely a pencil in the house, no toys because she has a younger sibling who breaks everything. And she didn't have a lot of privacy as well. She has a abusive grandma who kind of listens into sessions. So with the telehealth, it's been really funky. So I had her we gave grandma like a code name, and then she directed me through the telephone camera to act out. I had to act out, sing, do like a musical theater number, and draw at the same time a scenario with grandma, which I don't know if anyone, I guess my screen is off, but at some point at the end, I actually have the drawing. I can share it. So that's one example of how we made it work with the little resources that she had. Another client, or a few clients I've done this with too, and I think we're going to try this ourselves in breakout sessions, is, like I said, that I've been looking at the tech as kind of a third party in the field with me and my clients. And so we've been looking at the glitches as kind of, how can we use them? Like, is the glitch bugging you? Yeah, it's bugging me too. Like, could you draw the glitch? What would the glitch have to say? Does that relate to anything with you in your life? So I've been really using sort of that technology piece as part of the projective work with my clients, and it's been really fruitful, because they've been able to express a lot of the frustrations with the disconnectivity through personifying and using those glitches. Maybe like after you draw the glitch, you can like tell the glitch everything you think about it, and then tear the glitch to pieces or stomp on it, or so we've been using it to work through whatever the kids need to work through. So that's been kind of exciting. Um, so I don't know if maybe that's a good time, Karen, we were talking about doing a breakout room where we could invite you guys to think about what what opportunity have for you has emerged from this glitch. It could be the glitch of COVID-19 itself, or it could be a glitch that happened during a session with one of your clients in which became an opportunity to deepen the work, I guess, or deepen your work. So I guess I want to maybe hand it to you if you want to do breakout rooms, Karen, or where are we with time?
Sure, sure. Um, if you want to stop sharing your screen, then I
Oh,
can
how do I do that?
check in with everyone.
Oh, here it is. Stop share. There we go.
Thank you. Thank you so much um, for that. So I want you to also can you describe glitch? Because for some people that may not have translated 100%.
Yes. So when I say glitch, it's a term of the experiencing of buffering when the screens buffer, when you lose, when the screens freeze, when the voice drops out, any kind of technological issue that um, causes you to lose connection in that telephone call or that video call. So my clients will say to me, they'll, "You're glitching," and that usually lets me know that I have frozen or they completely didn't hear what I said. So that's the glitch.
Yes. Thank
Interruption in connection.
Yes, thank you. And you throw out a lot of acronyms
Oh,
because this is your daily life. So DMH and
yes,
uh, DCFC and but
yeah,
colleagues of
or
ours are
helping out.
spelling it out. Yeah, exactly. So these
Oh,
are
thank
all
you.
agencies that you are reporting to, working for. There on behalf of children.
Yes, yeah.
And it's just for you, it's just part of your lexicon, I know.
Thank you. Yeah, I even had a reminder like spell out acronyms, but then of course I forgot. So thank you, colleagues, for doing that. Yeah, in
Yes,
this work, we have a lot of connection with Child Protective Services
yes,
and law enforcement. And the Department of Mental Health is kind of who oversees us from the government to make sure that we're spending their money wisely. So,
yes, yes. And one of the comments in the chat, Michelle, is that one of the hardest things for families, this is from Raina, is that they need this struggle to end, and it feels like grief because it's not ending. And you're
mm,
even with this support, is it ever enough? Is it really enough? Right.
mm-hmm.
And you, Raina, you use the word band-aid, that's um, so and yet some may be actually having experience of healing during this time with you.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, like, I guess in response to a band-aid, um, I mean, I think at least our services, even through telehealth, are way more than a band-aid. It's more like we're EMTs
Mhm.
and surgeons at the same time.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
so, I mean, the work is very deep, and like I said, I mean, we are in their lives.
yeah,
We're part of we're joined with their families.
yeah,
So we're you know we're part of them for the time that we're there.
yeah.
So it's definitely deeper than surface.